just finished playing Chicago Express. Badly, I might add. Let's talk a little bit about the game. For one thing, the fact that I flubbed it completely in terms of not understanding the effects of the end conditions and the value of the companies makes me question whether I misplayed Pampas in the same sort of way. I don't think I did, but I think one of the people who, is very aware of the game, and a number of them were commenting on me, would have mentioned, whoa, what price are you paying for these things? But that's definitely the case here, is some shares fell for way more than they ended up being worth. And that's kind of, that's my fault, I should have understood the dynamics a little bit better. So I walk away after having played without really having played, because this wasn't, people were spending money in quantities that did not make sense, especially on the last on that last turn. I just didn't realize how quickly it was going to end. I knew it was going to end fairly soon because I saw the tokens and the shares running low, but also that I forgot how little the certificates were really worth in this. So in Pampas, your railroad is worth something to begin with, just based on the tracks that you have there. It's still divided by the number of shares, though. I went and looked that up, and I'm not positive that I got that right. In fact, I'm not positive I got anything right now. Just because this is so alien to me, and I'm not really reviewing much of anything here. So let's talk about the components, which are absolutely gorgeous. The map, you got to see the map, but it is lovely. Oh wow. And it's even got a back. That's very pretty. These tiles, which serve very little purpose, they're really, really nice too. Good hard stock. The rule book, when I picked this up, I said, oh my God, what have I done? But the problem is it's in 6 languages. It's not very big, actually. So for example, the English rules run 8 pages, and they're fairly well covered here. There's not a lot of fluff in them, but they're very colorful and divided up in a way that I would probably find this easier to read. And that's a pity, but people want glossy rules. The money in the certificates are just absolutely gorgeous. I don't really care, wooden choo-choos or whatever these are. Who cares? But the other components are really, really gorgeous. In terms of play of the game, I'm just left with this confusion. So one problem I have, and I want to play it again very badly, but I don't know how much I can play this solitaire for the same kind of reasons that I have trouble with playing Euros solitaire, which is so when it's clearly a positive to own shares, like in an 18xx game, and I think in the Pampas game, it's obviously there's a point at which you're paying too much, and you can figure that out. I didn't bother to look here to figure that out too carefully, because in Pampas, I think I came to the conclusion that, wow, these things make enough money that, except in the last turn, they're worth owning. And even then, it's worth paying pretty much most of what you have for shares. I know things were going for 30, 40 bucks over there, and people were still making money off them. The dynamic, and this is the same, of splitting the income, though, is very interesting. So, you know, if I have one certificate, one share of something, me floating another one and just funneling more money in gives me more money to make money if I pay for it. If I get somebody else to pay for it, I'm watering down the value of my stock. I don't think I got that in Pampas. And I just don't think I understood fully that feel, because the stock felt like it was worth something no matter what. In this, I played with that feeling, and obviously it burned some of the players at the end, the ones who sprang for, you know, $30 certificates that ended up being worth $6. Of course, or $3 ones that ended up being worth $1. But that might have made money. It's just hard to judge. The problem with playing something like this solitaire, you know, if I know a certificate's going to make me money, more or less anything reasonable I bid on it, then it's just, well, is that the best I can do, you know? But here, very clearly, there's a point at which you can see, hey, this isn't worth more than this amount of money. It just isn't. And we saw that. The B&O wasn't worth more than $5. And it turned out the Wabash wasn't worth more than $1. Because that's what it's going to make in the end of the game. Being able to do that kind of calculation kind of troubles me. It might not be so bad playing it with people, because I've got more time to think about those calculations. Or once I get used to it, I'm just not used to that. I'm used to, oh yeah, I can buy that, I want it. I can buy that, I want it. Ooh, I can't really afford that. Do I want to trade off, or what opportunity cost am I willing to pay for that? I think in this, that stock values probably kind of make a neat little curve. Early on, you don't have the cash to put much into a share. I mean, you do. You have $24 at the beginning of the game. If you throw that all into one certificate, bingo, you got it. At a fairly high price. I think I was paying too much. There was too much money in those company treasuries. But on the other hand, it is an auction. You put a share up, and you want it, because it's going to perhaps make you money. But if other people are outbidding you, there's some point where you've got to say, no, all my money is not necessarily worth this. And I didn't get that. In Pampas, I don't think that was the case. I think, but again, I may have been misplaying it, but I think that almost all the time, if you had the money in hand, any reasonable amount of money you could have, the shares were pretty much worth at least that at any point in the game. So basically what I'm saying though here is, because you get more income phases the earlier you buy it, as your cash starts accumulating and you can afford to buy maybe multiple certificates of something, and because of the actions that trigger an auction and the scarcity of those, the value of the shares goes up from where it is at the beginning of the game. At the beginning of the game, maybe I paid too little for the shares there too, but at the beginning of the game, it doesn't feel like you have a lot of money, so you don't want to spend it all on one certificate. Especially, what's weird though is at that point, they're quite possibly worth all your money. But as you go later on, you have more cash, less opportunities to buy certificates, and it becomes more valuable, I think, to do so. Then once you hit the end of the game, the amount of expected payoffs drops, and the value you can expect to get off of those certificates goes lower and lower. I don't have a lot else to say. Like I said, I want to play this again. I want to take another look at it. I don't want it to go right now. I got so many damn games I gotta play. But like with certain things like Twilight Struggle, I feel like I really do need to go back and play this again and get a real feel for the game. And I'm beginning to think I have to go back and play Pampas. Comparing the two, if I misplayed Pampas, they're close enough games that I would definitely prefer this sucker based on the components. If I did not misplay it, they have a very, very different feel. But it's funny because there's no real link to why they do, other than, so one of them has stock value at the end of the game and the other doesn't. And in terms of games, that makes them very different, but I'm looking at it in terms of what are they simulating? Why is that different? What does that make sense about? And it's very hard for me because I'm used to the 18XX tradition where, yeah, you're putting out very much the same structure in terms of like tiles, buying shares, etc. with some outliers like 29 and 53 being kind of weird there. But most of the games have some very, very special factor to them. So for example, if you look at 1856, which I love perhaps the most out of any, it takes the 1830 concept but adds these loans, and it adds the Canadian National Railroad and all this kind of chromey type stuff on top of the system to represent and simulate something a little different in that game. 1870 has its own special rules to simulate perhaps something a little different. I'm not sure what it is. For example, the price protection and companies holding shares. I don't feel like that is particularly something that's specific to, say, Midwestern railroads as compared to any other railroads. Well, you know, it's almost like just this addition, and I guess whether or not you count share price at the end is in that similar range. My sort of tentative complaint here applies to some of the 18XX games as well. For what it's worth, 1870 isn't one that I particularly like because I don't feel like it's adding something that's terribly specific. That's not what I really dislike about it, but that's one of the things. I think it's got some neat little features to it, but there's sort of these, oh, wouldn't it be cool if this worked this way instead? If I could hold my own shares. So I don't know. Again, I'm going to have to come back to this and give you guys better words at some other time. Good night.